Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday night, September 10th, and we're now entering week 4 of Political Science 1013 on the first 8-week schedule for the fall 2023 term. Just a few things, everybody. We got a discussion in on social media platforms. We need to get one more discussion in before our midterm exam, which is coming up on Monday the 18th. Many of you will be seeing this on Monday the 11th, so the exam will be 1 week after that, all day, Monday the 18th. But anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves. We're going to get a third discussion in, discussion number 3, in this Wednesday and Thursday, the 13th and 14th. And this has to do with Donald Trump and the Constitution. You will find a description of the discussion topic and a couple of links you can click on to read about this particular topic, which has come up just within the past few weeks, that I hope will be of interest to you, and it could be quite serious as time goes on. All right, so that will take place Wednesday and Thursday. Please post at least twice in that 48-hour period to get full credit. The exam is Monday the 18th. Everyone, please be sure you've been sent an announcement that mentions the material you're responsible for. That includes 3 articles to be accessed online. Please go ahead and try those links and contact me if you have difficulty reaching any of those articles. I've already heard from one student who was having trouble, and we tried to get that material to that student. So please be sure you've done that well in advance of the exam so we can take care of any problems that may come up. All right, everybody, the exam will cover Units 3 and 4. Unit 3 was a fairly short unit on the media. Unit 4 deals with the Constitution, and it is quite lengthy. There is a lengthy reading assignment. I sent an announcement out about this earlier this evening. 4 chapters from the textbook are assigned. Look most closely at Chapter 2 if you are pressed for time, but please try to look at all of it. There's also some material in the appendix of the textbook that you're directed to, especially the text of Federalist Papers numbers 10 and 51 that we're going to touch on very briefly here in just a moment. Now, we need to talk about what we try to cover in Unit 4. We spend a good bit of time talking about the situation that led up to the adoption of the Constitution. Basically, what happened was the Americans won the Revolutionary War, and for a few years, the governing document was called the Articles of Confederation. But the new government began to run into trouble. The sentiment took hold that the articles were inadequate. So a series of meetings were called, culminating in the Constitutional Convention, which the original idea was simply to revise the articles, but eventually they threw out the articles and drafted and ratified a completely new Constitution. So we talk a good deal about the situation that led up to all those events. It really covers some important decades of American history, especially during the 1750s, 1760s, and 1770s. Everyone, we try to go into some detail of the Constitution as much as we can. Not every provision, but we do try to cover fairly carefully the original 7 articles of the Constitution. We don't discuss all of the amendments, but we do talk fairly extensively about the 3 amendments adopted after the Civil War, most notably the 14th Amendment. We don't want to forget the Bill of Rights either. First 10 amendments that were adopted shortly after the original 7 articles were ratified. So we talk about those amendments, also the Civil War amendments, especially the 14th Amendment. And we also discuss the 25th Amendment, which was adopted in the 1960s, which came up at the very end of President Trump's term of office. Now that's related, I suppose, to the discussion topic, which is strictly speaking about the 14th, not the 25th Amendment. All right. Well, in the process of doing all that, especially when we break between the original 7 articles and the Bill of Rights. We stop there to discuss the Federalist Papers, the essays written in defense and support of the Constitution, largely by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, the 2 that you've been assigned, Federalist Paper number 10 and number 51. It's fairly well established that both were written by James Madison, and these are important documents telling us why the founders created the Constitution the way they did, what their thinking was, and what they're trying to accomplish by including certain features within the Constitution. All right, so look at those closely if you could. The reading is somewhat difficult, but they take up a few pages in the appendix to the textbook, and I also try to talk about them fairly extensively in the class notes. All right, so we try to go through the provisions of the Constitution fairly carefully, especially the original 7 articles, the Bill of Rights, the Civil War amendments, and the 25th Amendment. Now, after that, everybody, we try to talk about some topics and issues related to the Constitution, most notably civil liberties, civil rights, and federalism. All of those are covered in chapters 3, 4, and 5, I believe, of your textbook. So they're covered there at length. We don't cover them at quite the same length in the class notes. We do try to at least touch on them. Pay close attention to the distinction we draw between civil rights and civil liberties. You'll find a discussion of a number of recent controversies that have arisen, especially in the area of civil liberties, most particularly free speech. So pay close attention to that. Federalism refers to the division of responsibility in our system and other systems around the world among various levels of government, most notably in our system between the federal or national government and the state governments. Now you notice there's been some flux, there's been some shifts in responsibility, especially going back to the middle of the 20th century during the administration of President Franklin D. Roosevelt and the New Deal program, so-called, that were adopted at that time. We go through several areas of policy and try to hit upon some major controversies in the federal system. Where does responsibility for these matters lie? With the feds, or with the states, or with some combination thereof? One thing that happened is that the feds, with the passage of time, began to give out more and more money to the states, but often that money came with strings attached. So that's been the case the past 80 to 90 years in the federal system, and that brought about quite a bit of change. It gave the Fed some leverage if they could threaten to withhold that money to the states. All right, so that's what we try to do in Unit 4 on the Constitution. A quite lengthy unit. Now, we'll be talking to you again in about 6 days. The exam is Monday, so I'm going to try to get a message out Saturday that you'll see Sunday the 17th before you take the exam on Monday the 18th. So we'll try to say a bit more about the exam and about the material we will be beginning right after the exam, which will be Unit 5 on the presidency. All right, but you'll need to set a fair amount of time aside to look at all this material on the Constitution. It's quite a bit of material in Unit 4. That, along with Unit 3, will be the material you'll be responsible for on the midterm exam on Monday, September 18th, along with 3 articles you need to try to access online. And please contact me if you cannot reach those links, if they will not open for you, or if you're asked to pony up some money. We don't want you to have to do that. Okay, so we're looking at Unit 4 this week. We'll have a discussion later in the week. And our exam is coming up Monday, September 18th, the midterm exam over Units 3 and 4, and 3 outside readings in addition to that. So please contact me with any questions, problems, or issues, and we'll be talking to you once again in about a week's time, just before the midterm exam. Take it easy, study hard, and we'll talk to you again soon.